Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. I've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. It's the basketball episode, and we are excited to be talking hoops with you tonight. We have people here in the chat with us. Jeff is here. Wish I could show up to work 5 minutes late. Jeff, we are late, but we are here and we are ready to go. All right. So no worries. We have Kent with us today, as per usual, casual Big Ten. Kent, how you doing?
I'm good. If Jeff's job is being a hater right now, then he is right on time.
Nah,
coming in hot at the beginning.
We appreciate Jeff, and Jeff likes
Love
the
you,
joke.
Jeff.
So
Love you, Jeff.
Jeff the jokester. We got Zod from Bruin Source, our UCLA rep here at College Huddle, joining us. Zod, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm very jealous of the weather you all have in December. I'm doing okay right now because here in Indiana we're doing all right. But come December, come November, I'm gonna be like, I wish I was where Zod is right now.
Hey, come visit us. Would love to have you over here.
There you go. I'll have to come over for a basketball game at some
There you
point.
go.
So, and we got Vince from the Nittany Blues podcast, Penn State. We got some Ace Baldwin news to talk about tonight. So Vince going to be talking about that for sure, and everything else going on. Vince, how you doing, man?
Doing well. We are very excited about Ace Baldwin Jr. coming back. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, he's gonna torment all of the guards in the Big Ten. And I was looking up his stats today. He had just as many steals per game as he did rebounds per game, and I was like, wow, that is.
Yeah, like
either you're a really bad rebounder or you're a really good stealer. One of the two,
yeah,
and he's a
there's
really
not
good
many
stealer.
people on planet Earth that can do what he does defensively. He's a stud, and we're really happy to have him back.
For sure. He's going to be awesome. We'll talk about him later on. We also have Philip here, ILL, in the chat, Illinois. And I think that's it that we have in the chat so far. So let's go ahead and get to our first topic here. Portal winners and losers. All right, guys. So I put together all of the portal rankings here. These are 24/7. I don't know if On3 is different. I know that that's like a constant battle between people On3 versus 24/7, whatever. But these are all the commits that 24/7 has listed, and these are their rankings on 24/7. These are in alphabetical order, so I'm not saying anybody did better than anybody else. However, we are going to talk about who are winners and who are losers in the transfer portal relative to what their team needed and maybe did get, or maybe didn't get. Kent, we'll let you go first. Who are some of your winners in the college basketball transfer portal in the Big Ten?
Well, I'll be quick because I've talked about these guys multiple times throughout the last couple of weeks. But for anyone who's watching for the first time, it's Indiana and it's UCLA. I think last time that Zed was on, I was talking about how much I liked what UCLA did in the portal, and I continue to like it. I think they're ranked. Do you have the rankings up right here? Sorry, my screen's kind of small right now.
UCLA is 10th.
Okay.
They were at 1 point first. I think last time we were doing on Zod was on, they were first, and we were talking about that.
They were first for a while, yeah.
Okay, well, are they 10? I thought that. Okay, anyways, I still like what they did though. Eric Daly, Sky Clark. I like Kobe Johnson. I thought that if he gets an opportunity, this season with UCLA to get a lot of minutes, which I think he will. I think that he'll be great for them. And then obviously for me, it's Indiana. It's Balo, Rice, and is it Carlisle, the third guy? Really high-rated guys that are going to come in and help them out this year. So those are my big winners for the offseason. I would say honorable mention is Michigan, but I don't put them as a winner because they had to reboot basically. They had nobody coming back, so they basically had to get new guys, so I don't really see that as a big win for them, even though I do like some of the guys that they got.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Michigan, they finished 9th, and we'll talk about them a little bit more here in just a minute. I have some thoughts on them, but I definitely think that you're on the right track there with when you consider relative to what they needed. Were they winners? Were they not? But Zod, we'll let you go first. Obviously, you're going to talk about your Bruins, I'm sure. Talk about them, and then anybody else you feel like are winners.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a homer pick here, obviously, but yeah, I think UCLA won pretty big. To Kent's point, like all of those players that we've gotten filled huge needs that we had from this past season. We upgraded athleticism, we upgraded defense, we upgraded shooting, and Mick Cronin has like taken last year's experience and reshaped and remolded this team into the image that he needs it to be to win. I think I talked about this last time. Like, that man takes offense to losing, and he completely blew up the experiment from last season, and has brought in, older, experienced guys to play his style of basketball. And these guys seem to have bought into the defensive style, the hard work, the high motor type of system that he entails. And I'm super stoked for it. And I totally agree with Ken. I think the other team to look out for is obviously Indiana. I'm not hyped to see Ballo again. Obviously, UCLA faced him a bunch while he was at Arizona. Kanan Carlisle is a very good player. Rice is a very good player. Those two teams, I think, are going to be duking it out for the conference. I really do think that. Obviously, I think Illinois has done a great job with their team as well. And then, I think Michigan, you're spot on about. There's a lot of rebuilding going on there. I think it's going to be tough for them to, really take this, jump into this conference next season in the race. Though I think they could be considered like a dark horse maybe. But I think it's like those 2 or 3 teams that are really big winners in the transfer portal. And just, again, homer pick, I'm putting UCLA on top.
For sure. Wouldn't expect anything else. Vince, I'd like to know your winner picks, and then tell me, man, Penn State, obviously the addition of Ace Baldwin Jr., like I said, we'll talk about that later, but the addition of him makes what Penn State did in the portal a lot better because you have your star player coming back. Do you consider Penn State to be a winner in the transfer portal?
Yeah, I do think I'd say they're middle in the pack. I think the ranking is very fair. They do have a lot of guys coming back in their starting lineup. We got Ace Baldwin Jr. returning, which is huge. We got DeMarco Dunn coming back. Nick Kern, really athletic, explosive athlete. You got Zach Hicks, who can shoot. You got Puff Johnson. Big area where they needed help was the center position. Qudus Wahab obviously graduated, and there was a really big drop off when he was on the bench last season at the backup center position. So we got Kachinaza out of Xavier, and we got Yannick Niederhauser out of Northern Illinois, 6'11" guy. So we're hoping they can contribute. We do have a good freshman coming in, Miles Goodman out of Seattle. So he's a guy I'm hoping is very good, and out of the freshmen, I think is going to be most likely to have a positive impact. And then Eli Rice is the next guy that came into the fold, forward out of Nebraska. So, stealing one of Nebraska's guys, they had a really good season last year, and probably his reason for transferring is lack of minutes off the bench. However, when you look at his numbers, really solid player, good shooter, which is something that you need when you have a ball dominant guard like Ace Baldwin. You need to surround him with shooters. When Zach Hicks and company got hot, that's when Penn State basketball was at their best last year. And then I remember saying after the Eli Rice signing, I was like, hey, we really need a combo guard behind Ace Baldwin Jr. and DeMarco Dunn, someone who can fill in at either spot. And what do? Mike Rhodes finds Freddie Dillon, the 4th out of Tennessee. Tennessee, another school, really good basketball program, and probably coming to Penn State because of lack of minutes. So I'm really hoping that those guys can all contribute and provide good depth to Penn State. That was an area where they struggled the most last year. There were games you could tell that, hey, they were gassed. Their 3-point percentage was not very good, sometimes as low as like 20%. But when they were on shooting 40%, really difficult team to beat. So when you're playing that Coach Rhodes, press defense, that can wear you out over a course of a 34-game season. So those are guys that are coming in that I expect to make an impact and hopefully provide some much needed depth to Penn State.
Yeah, I really liked what Penn State did considering Ace Baldwin came back. If Ace Baldwin didn't come back, I was going to be concerned about star power and would they have, somebody that could be that star on the team and make things happen. But considering he's coming back, the pieces they added, like you said, they're depth pieces and they're good. I just now am realizing, I think the Big Ten has set a record for the most Rice players ever added. We have Miles Rice, Eli Rice, like how many?
Rice, baby.
Rodney Rice from Maryland, like... Did we add some brothers at some point this transfer portal? I don't know. I might have to make a graphic. Most Rice players ever added in a college basketball offseason by a conference. But anyway, yeah, I'm surprised nobody's saying Maryland. I think the Maryland, I know that Kevin Willard is their coach. Yes, I hear you, Philip. Don't worry. Maryland middle of the pack as long as Willard is their coach. I have been a Kevin Willard, I've been against Kevin Willard as much as anybody else, but I like what he did in the portal. I think that he made some good choices, getting some good shooters. He added 2 shooters that were nearly 40% last season. Obviously, you don't have Jameer Young coming back, so you got to add some guys who can handle the ball a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like I feel like it was a good portal edition for Maryland. So Kent, let's talk about Michigan really fast. Okay, so Michigan doesn't add the star power. Okay, they do add Roddy Gale, Sam Walters, Trey Donaldson, Danny Wolf, Vlad Golden. I guess you could consider that their star power, possibly, and then Reuben Jones. Are you concerned with obviously, like we said, they had to add players because they lost players, new coach coming in, all that good stuff. Are you concerned with the lack of star power, or do you feel like this lineup, or do you feel like Vlad Golden is enough of a star to carry Michigan to be a top-tier team in the Big Ten next year?
I don't think that's what Dusty May wants. I don't think that's what he's ever done, or his style of coaching is to rely on a star. I think he wants guys that are, more team focused. It's the complete opposite. Everything is the complete opposite at Michigan now. Because the way that Juwan Howard did it was like he's going to recruit the highest level guys he can, and he's not going to worry about building a team. He's just going to let them go out and play, it seems like. So I'm not worried about it because of who the coach is now. I'd be worried about it if Juwan Howard was still there. I'd be very worried. I'd be worried if, LeBron was on the team and Juwan Howard was still there coaching. So, I'm not worried about it because of Dusty May. I think that he'll be able to create a cohesive lineup and some actual teamwork this year, and I think that Michigan will be much improved, which is not going to be difficult. They were in last place last year, so it's only looking up for them. So I'm not too worried about it. No.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like you said, you got to look at the way Dusty May coaches. I think that's a really good point with what he is doing with these guys. And I think that Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden are going to be a really interesting pair for the Big Ten to have to deal with. Obviously, the Big Ten has a lot of dominance with their big men over the years. And when you have 2 big men like that, what do we think? Are they going to start next to each other? Or do you think one will come off the bench and give the other one? I don't know. Like, I can see them playing next to each other, but I don't know if they're going to start next to each other. You have any thoughts on that, Kent?
I hope so. That would be amazing to see them out there at the same time, because I can't remember the last time there's been, 2 guys that are that big. The problem is I don't think that they should, because they're both basically centers, right? Like, I guess Vlad could maybe play the 4 a little bit. Like, he's a little bit more athletic, I think. I don't know. It would be interesting to see 2 guys that big on the court at the same time, but I think it would be better for the team if they actually had a rotation at the center position and, like, just use them both, if one's in foul trouble or something like that, or, to give a guy a break.
Yeah, that makes sense. Zod, do you have any losers in the Big Ten, specifically maybe any Pac-12 teams that we're missing here, not thinking about anybody like that? Or old Pac-12, sorry, old Pac-12.
I think, old Pac-12, rest in peace. Yeah, I think USC is rebuilding, new coach. They're basically rebuilding a brand new roster. They had basically literally nobody coming back. So they have a bunch of new guys in there. I think, Musselman will probably get them into good shape in a couple of years, but this season isn't going to be it. So I wouldn't call them losers because they did bring in a lot of talent. I just don't think they're going to be competitive this year. I think Washington paid a lot of money for Great Osabor. I don't know how that will play out for them. The rumor is like he's getting $2 million to transfer from Utah State. Obviously, he followed Danny Sprinkle over there. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't think they're going to be super good this year either. I think they're going to be a little bit rebuilding mode as well, even with Osabor there. So I wouldn't call them really big winners. The other team, the other Pac-12 team, I would say that actually might be pretty successful is Oregon. Dana Altman has been a wizard at cobbling rosters together, and I think the guys he's bringing in, TJ Bamba, Brandon Angel. There's a third guy who I cannot remember who, Raheem Moss. Like those are all high level good players that they're bringing in, and I think Oregon is going to surprise a lot of people in the conference race, especially with the talent they have. But yeah, I think overall Pac-12, old Pac-12 players or teams going to be mostly mediocre. I think UCLA, Oregon are probably going to be the two to look out for in the conference this year.
I tend to agree with that. I've seen Oregon get a lot more hype lately with some of the additions they were able to make. Vince, from your perspective, man, you're looking at the rest of the Big Ten here. Any losers, people you feel like, man, they could have just done better? Minnesota comes to mind with me with Cam Christie coming back. I mean, like that would have been awesome for them to bring him back, but since he's not coming back, kind of the same thing with Michigan, kind of lacking some of that star power, not as great of guys. Do you have any more thoughts, Vince?
Yeah, I think Iowa's one of those teams who they didn't seem to add much. They only had 2 commits. So they're a team last year that I wasn't super scared of with Penn State playing. That they ended up splitting 1-1. So I think that's a team where they could have added more in the offseason.
Yeah, for sure. Get to a few comments here really fast before we move on. Michigan State has 2 transfers, Zapala and Fiddler. Graphics out of date. Last time I checked, Zapala was still just crystal balled to Michigan State.
Yeah,
Did
he's
he
not
actually?
on there because I saw that the other day too, and someone said something to me about that on Twitter, and I double checked it. He's not on there. I don't know why, because there's articles. I went and like Googled it, and there's articles about him that he's for sure coming, but like he's straight up just not on the website for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I'm not saying you're a liar, Philip, or anything like you're wrong. I'm just saying like I went by 24/7 and 24/7 didn't have him in the class yet. They just had him crystal balled. So whatever that means, but you're correct. He is coming to there as well. And then yes, Philip, I meant to mention him at the beginning of the episode. R.I.P. Bill Walton. Sucks to lose him. I was looking forward to hearing him do some games. I've watched some Pac-12 after dark basketball games, and it was really, really fun listening to him do some games. So Zod, you got any thoughts on?
Yeah, it was a bad way to end Memorial Day weekend. Growing up as a UCLA fan, you always hear about Bill Walton, and I was lucky enough to interact with him a few times over the years, just being in Poly Pavilion and around school and campus. And truly just like a larger than life person. He was an awesome dude. And yeah, it's a bummer we won't get to hear him on broadcast anymore. So super sad to lose him. Yeah, he was true legend.
Yeah, really sucks. Hate what that cancer does and those kind of things.
Yeah.
So thoughts and prayers to his family and all that stuff. And I'm sure I'll be remembering him for sure this basketball season. All right, let's move on to the next part here. NCAA revenue sharing. All right, so the NCAA revenue sharing has happened, and CBS wrote an article about it. A lot of this is being talked about in football terms. I do want to check in and just talk about it from a basketball perspective really fast before we get too much into all of it with just football. But Zod, I'd like to get your thoughts on it first. I mean, what kind of changes do you see coming to college basketball with the NCAA revenue sharing that's coming? I think it's $22 million is what some of the higher tier teams are going to have to allocate throughout their sports and stuff like that. What are your thoughts, Zod?
Yeah, UCLA is projecting like 20 to 22 million, so you're spot on there. I don't even know what to make of it. This feels like a typical NCAA move where they've made this like very broad, big, earth-shattering change, but with like no thought behind how this is actually going to operate or function. Like they were just like, cool, we're going to do this. But there's so many questions like, how does NIL play with this? How does this impact Title IX? Like, are we expecting, equal distributions to every player, especially in basketball. Like how I don't even know where to begin with this. I think UCLA specifically, I'll speak to them just because I know the school best. They're going to approach this very conservatively. I think there's going to be a lot of schools out there that are going to be playing kind of in a gray area in the margins until, there's some regulation around how this actually operates. But I think it's going to be a few years till people figure this out. I mean, it took 3 years to really start NIL up and like really figure out how to operate within the NIL world. And now you throw this into the mix. It's just going to cause more chaos. So I'm curious to see kind of how long it takes for this to all kind of shake out and normalize a little bit. But it really does feel like we're moving towards a world where there's going to be some sort of collective bargaining amongst players with their schools or conferences or the NCAA. I don't know what that will look like, but we're slowly, I think, moving towards that world.
Yeah, it's all crazy to think about the future and what's going to happen there. Vince, do you have any thoughts on what this is going to do to college basketball or anything like that?
Yeah, NIL right now, it's the wild, wild west, man. It's Penn State is trying to catch up to some of those top programs like Ohio State and Georgia, and Franklin's made a big initiative of that. And really, that was a big thing in terms of Micah Shrewsbury leaving the Notre Dame. He wanted to advocate for more NIL for the basketball program. Whereas, Penn State being a football school, that kind of, I think, ruffled some feathers a little bit. But this is exciting news for the landscape of college football and basketball. And really excited that the players can all get their fair cut.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't realize that about the Micah Shrewsbury situation. That's really interesting to think about there. Kent, your thoughts on revenue sharing, what it means for college basketball?
It's great. It's awesome. This article really didn't say like what the breakdown is going to be for the different sports, but I'm assuming obviously football is going to get the most and then basketball would be next in line. So of that like 20 million that each of these Power 5 schools is getting is my assumption. So on the surface level, it looks like there's going to be more clarity on like why guys are transferring, because I think that there'll be more openness about like, hey, we offered him X amount of dollars, so obviously he's leaving because last year he was making this much money. So it seems like that, especially if the school is directly offering it, right, they're going to have to disclose how much they're going to give these kids. So I don't know who's keeping track of all that, though. Like, we just gave this guy $1 million and this guy $2 million or whatever, and it's like it's going to add up real quick, and I don't know if anyone's going to be really keeping their crossing their T's and dotting their I's on that. But we'll see. I'm happy for the players, obviously, and I think it's going to lead to more transfers, which I love because I think transfers are good and fun, and we get to talk about it, and it's going to look every team's going to look different every year because of that. And I think this is a thing that people aren't talking about maybe enough, but maybe they are because I don't listen to everyone. But guys are going to stay in college longer, I think. Like the guys that are borderline, like maybe going to go to the NBA are going to come back and say, hey, I'll actually just go back to college because I can go transfer right now. And, the allure of a transfer is always going to make more money than the guy that's probably going to stay at a school. So he'll go transfer and make more money. Now, here's my quick negatives, and then I'll wrap this up. I think there's going to be a ton of legal stuff incoming in the next few years. It's going to be more stuff like what we saw at Florida where they think that they're getting this money and then the school pulls the rug from under them and they don't get it and there's lawsuits filed. I think there's going to be even more tax problems for some of these players who aren't managing their money correctly. And then the other negatives are your favorite player's probably not going to stay next year. If he had a really good year, if you liked Elijah Hawkins and now he has an even bigger pot to go steal from a different school, not steal from, to make money from a different school. He's getting NIL money. He can possibly get the revenue money now. He's not staying. None of your favorite players are staying, so don't get used to anybody. And then obviously I've heard this a lot, but a lot of sports aren't going to make the cut because they don't have to share the money around the board anymore because they are getting the money for themselves to pay their players. So Like, and when I say they, I'm saying like football and basketball are going to get revenue money. It's not being distributed to the non-revenue sports anymore. So the sports that aren't making money are eventually not going to exist anymore, which is a bummer. But who cares? Football, basketball is going to be great. So
and I think you're pointing to exactly what I was kind of talking about earlier, Kent. Like, there's no guidance on how this works, right? And I don't know how schools are going to manage this, especially with Title IX in play. Like, I don't think schools can say, hey, we're only paying basketball, football, and then not support other sports, right? Especially women's sports. So like, there's no clarity around how that's going to be managed or how it should be managed. And to your point, yeah, there's going to be a lot of legal mumbo jumbo to wade through before I think any of this actually kind of settles.
Yeah, so go ahead, Vince.
Something I think would be interesting to add to all of this. We talk about players transferring in and out. I think it would be really interesting if schools could offer like multi-year deals like they do in professional sports, saying like, hey, this is the dollar amount you need to, be here X amount of years to earn this. And then, obviously maybe have buyouts in the contract. So if other schools want to steal or get those players in the portal, they would then have to like pay the school and give them money. I think that would
kind of like Premier League soccer.
Yeah, so I think that would make it a little more interesting and less likely to see some of our favorite players, just going to make more money. Because honestly, like that's what any of us would do in their shoes. Like we emotionally get upset as fans when our players leave, but like if you were to get paid, double your salary to go live somewhere else and do the same job, like most people would take that. So I think that would be good to have the longer term contracts. But again, then if the player wants to leave, then you got a lot of, there's a lot of stuff to go through the weeds in there as well. But that's something I think would be interesting.
Kent, Phillip knows us too well at this point. Kent's still sour on Hawkins leaving Minnesota.
I was just typing back to him. I am.
Phillip knows us too well at this point. Okay, so I haven't talked about this a whole lot because I know somebody who knows somebody who's in NIL at Ohio State, and so I've been talking to them a little bit. Obviously, nothing is set in stone yet, but at least from what they have told me, that Ohio State's current stance on it is, which could be different from like UCLA or Penn State. Like this is just the way that Ohio State is kind of preparing for it right now, based on what they know, which, he told me, he was like, this could change. So don't don't take this as absolute truth. But the way that they're currently preparing for it is that women's sports are going to get half the cut and men's sports are going to get the other half. And so there's been a lot of speculation on like, okay, well, only the revenue producing sports are going to have revenue sharing. However, that's not exactly how it works because they look at the entire athletic department and not just the actual sports that make the money. And so that's kind of how Ohio State is preparing for it right now. So, women theoretically will be making just as much as men in college athletics, at least at Ohio State is kind of what they're preparing for. And then I see Phillip here is asking about like the scholarship counts and are those counted towards revenue? They are. So like your scholarship is going to count toward this most likely, which schools are going to hate. So you're going to see a lot of guys possibly, like I said, if this all comes true the way they think it is, you're going to see a lot of guys not get a scholarship and they're going to get paid big money with revenue sharing, and it's like, here's your money. You can pay to go to school this way. And the NCAA is just going to not care about scholarships because this is going to turn into unlimited scholarships for everybody, any sport, whatever. Like it doesn't matter. You could have 25 guys on scholarship for basketball if you wanted to. Obviously, that would be stupid, but like it could do that if you wanted to.
That's interesting. You mentioned that because that gets into like other territory where the NCAA has all these weird rules around like meals and this and that, right? Like when you break that model, can players eat together anymore? Like, can they travel together? Like, how does all of that gets figured into like scholarship money get figured out? Like, I don't know. On top of like, it sounds like if they're splitting it kind of evenly by gender here, I'd imagine like NIL comes into play, right? On top of what players are being paid from the school. So like, is that going to still remain the same? Is NIL going to be pulled in house? Like there's just so many questions around this. Like it feels frankly a little half-assed right now for them to just be like, here it is. I know UCLA said they expect to start paying the $22 million by 2025, and I don't believe that this is going to get figured out in a year. Like there's no way.
I honestly can see a scenario, and like you guys are going to have to go with me on this just a little bit, but there's going to be so many rules eventually that this is going to sound nuts, but I think like some of the players might get paid under the table, like without anyone knowing about it.
We've come full circle.
Yeah,
Kent, that would never happen.
I know. I don't want that to happen.
Coaches that own car dealerships down in the South that would never do such a thing.
I could see it. And maybe I'm just being a little pessimistic. I don't know, man. I could see it happening. I don't know. We'll see.
Now, I think, and that was the other thing he told me is like a lot of people are speculating right now, oh, this is the death of NIL. And it's like, no, this is how NIL is going to thrive because guess what? These schools only have a cap that they can hit. And the schools are going to be like, hey, we hit our cap. NIL, can you come in and give this, offensive lineman $1 million? Can you give this point guard, $2 million? Like that's where it's going to come in. And people aren't going to be hearing about that stuff nearly as much. And he told me, he was like, good luck trying to get an interview with players on your podcast because he was like, if you ask them, they're going to be like, yeah, for $500. It's like, well, no, I'm not paying you $500 to come on my podcast. But
Brooks Barnhizer would never do that to us, JR.
No,
he would never.
Brooks is a good man, solid man, and he didn't do that to us. So we paid him $0 for his time, and he was very generous. So
I might have paid him. You don't know.
Well, Kent may have paid him $500 that I didn't know about from the Kent Casual Big Ten NIL Fund.
That's true. That's true.
So, all right. So a few more comments really fast before we get out of here. Jeff asks, are there stipulations that revenue sharing has to go to student athletes? What's stopping schools from spending on facilities? I do think that that $22 million has to go to the athletes, like actually to them. I don't think you can divert that to like paying for their food or paying for something else. Like I think that there are going to be rules, but the NCAA has made rules before that nobody's followed. So, good luck with getting those to be followed. Philip here, a split of 50-50 gender with football players will sue because they generate most money is basically all the football. Women's sports will sue on Title IX basis. Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues
somebody.
Right here.
Someone's suing somebody in this. Everyone's going to be suing everybody, I think, at some point.
Yeah. Like you thought Jaden Rashada was bad, suing Billy Napier. Get ready when JC Sheldon or whatever sues the football coach or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But all right, good discussion there, guys. Let's move on to Ace Baldwin Jr. returning. All right, Vince, this is your time to shine, man. Ace Baldwin Jr. I got a stats here from last season for everybody. Tell me, Vince, just what does Ace Baldwin's return mean for Penn State this year?
Ace Baldwin is everything to this ball club. You got the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He's a menace. He's a pest defensively. Like he's the type of player you just hate playing against because he's like so quick. Like his reaction time with his hands are so quick to steal the ball. He's just a floor general out there for the squad, making the right play. And once we hit like the halfway point in the season, kind of like heading into Big Ten play, that's when his 3-point shots started to come on. And when he's hitting his shots and playing with confidence, he can be a really dominant player in the Big Ten. So huge for Penn State. Months ago, he was back doing NIL stuff and everyone thought that was like an official announcement, but it is nice to kind of like take that deep breath and exhale like, all right, we got our guy back. And, we're hoping he has a similar trajectory to Jalen Pickett. Pickett was Shrewsbury's guy, and from year 1 to year 2 at Penn State, he had a big jump. And we're hoping Ace Baldwin Jr. can do the same thing with Coach Rhodes.
Yeah, I mean he was Rhodes' guy at VCU too, right? So I mean he came from there to was he the Conference Player of the Year?
Yeah, he was the A10 Conference Player of the Year. Correct.
Yeah. And so then he comes to the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. So, just phenomenal piece for them to come back. Kent, what does this addition mean for Penn State in your mind?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's huge. This is a crazy thing that I was looking up before we came on. How many teams are returning a point guard that average more than 10 points a game? Can you guys name any in the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten?
Yeah, JR, I assume
Did
you could
Braden
name
Smith?
one. What's that?
Did Braden Smith?
Yes, one.
Yeah.
I have one other one.
Dylan Andrews, he averaged, I don't remember, but definitely double digits.
I actually didn't check the new school, so maybe.
Wow. Okay.
I see how it is. Okay.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I had
I guess you
Bruce
did say
Thornton.
returning to the Big Ten, but
Fair
Bruce
enough,
Thornton.
fair enough.
Wow.
Yeah. Right? And then I guess you could maybe you could kind of say some guys have played some point guard, like maybe Trey Galloway or like Mike Mitchell Jr. from Minnesota. But to have a guy that's coming back that now is with a second year with a coach, this is rare right now in the conference to have a guy that's this high level and returning with his coach that can score this many points and, oh, by the way, play defense at the highest level. So, obviously this is huge for Penn State, and it's a great starting point for their roster to get started with this year, with the other teams joining. And I'm excited to see – I'm glad he's back. I'm just really excited to see him play again. So we'll see how they can put it together around him.
Yeah, he's a fun player. Thank you, NIL.
Right. I was going to say, like, if he wasn't coming back, I'd be really concerned for Penn State making the Big Ten basketball tournament. But, with him coming back, I feel much better about Penn State making that tournament and having a chance to go on to possibly even, making a run in it or something like that. I mean, when you have a good guard defender, not just a good, but a great defender at guard, that can change so many different things for you. So, Zod, not sure how much you're aware of Ace Baldwin Jr. last season or anything like that, but what are your thoughts on him returning?
I watched him a little bit. He's a handful. I'm looking forward to the Dylan Andrews Ace Baldwin matchup. Selfishly, I think that's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be fun to watch him come back. I think the whole conference of top to bottom has a lot of good guards. So it's I'm glad to see him back in the Big Ten, and I'm happy for you, Vince, and your team to be on an upward trajectory here.
Thank you.
Vince, tell me, can Ace Baldwin repeat as the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year? Again, we saw Zach Edey repeat as the Big Ten Player of the Year. I'm not going to put that kind of expectations on Ace Baldwin to be Player of the Year, but could he repeat as Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, who's going to be better? Just the steals he gets. I think he was like third most in the nation last year throughout the course of the season. He's really good. And I think he can be a dark horse for a Big Ten Player of the Year too.
Very possible. I think Kobe Johnson will give him a little bit of a run for his money. He's a very good defender. I think it helps that like Cliff Amorie is gone. He was, Zach Edey's gone. So some of those other guys that were really battling with him last year, they're gone. And, there's only a few other guys that really are that top tier level defender. Kent, you have any thoughts if he can repeat?
I think he can, but I got two other guys I'd like to throw in the hat if I could. Our guy, friend of the program, Brooks Barnheiser.
Oh, yeah.
Was sixth in rebounding last year. I think that rebounding is a big part of defense, but he was also fourth in steals in the conference. So he was like basically top 5 in those two categories. And then I think we're forgetting about Julian Reese. I talk bad about him a lot because I don't like Maryland because of their coach. I like Maryland. If anyone Maryland people are watching, I like them.
And say we talk more bad about Willard than we do Maryland itself.
Yeah, exactly. I actually really liked Maryland last year. I really enjoyed watching them play. But Julian Reese was third in rebounds and fifth in block shots last year, if you go by their averages per game. So I think that with those two guys and then like the ones that you mentioned, JR, I think there's going to be some, this is Big Ten basketball. There's always going to be great defense in this conference. So, I think with those guys, he definitely still has a chance to repeat, though, for sure. I mean, those two guys that I just mentioned were in the conference last year and he won it, so there's no reason why he can't do it again.
I'll make a prediction. I think there will be a Cronin coach player in the mix there, whether that's Kobe Johnson or William Kyle or Eric Daly. The dude just knows how to produce defensive studs. So I think if it's not Ace, I think it might be one of those guys.
That's what I was going to ask is how many defensive player of the years in the Pac-12 did Cronin produce, because they always have really good team defense, but I don't know if I've ever thought of like, best defensive player in the nation from UCLA. And that's no knock on them, because like I said, Cronin to me has always had really good defensive teams. The individual players are sometimes harder to pick out because the team is so good.
Adem Bona won Conference Defensive Player of the Year last season. The season before, Jalen Clark won both National and Conference Player of the Year. So, or Defensive Player of the Year. So yeah, he's had a good track record. And I think Kobe Johnson, you mentioned him, JR. He's a similar player to Jalen Clark. Obviously doesn't have 3 or 4 years of development under Cronin, but he has similar measurables. I think he could do that. I think Eric Daly is the guy to really look out for. No one's talking about him. He's transferring in from Oklahoma State, but the dude is an athlete and has the defensive instincts. I think from the power forward, kind of bigger wing positions can really make an impact. So yeah, I do think, there's a good chance that Cronin has a guy that is in that mix, even as soon as next season.
Great point. We'll look at Ace Baldwin versus the entire UCLA basketball team for
Ace Baldwin Jr. versus everybody, baby.
Yeah, versus everyone. Lion Cast Sunny also says Ty Rodgers is sleeper. That is true. Ty Rodgers, the game that he plays and the length that he has, he could definitely be a very good defensive player. To be able to do that, and could be a sleeper choice there. So good to bring that up, Sunny. Appreciate that. All right, guys, let's get to our last one here. All right, we don't talk a whole lot of conference realignment on the basketball episodes, but I saw this on Tar Heels Wire, and I thought, well, let's bring it up and let's talk about it. So they went through the ACC and figured out most of the teams. I don't think this is all of them. It's only 14 of them, I think. But they went through and they figured out, hey, how many of these ACC teams could we see going to either the Big Ten or the SEC next year or in the year after that if the ACC does fall away. Their picks, if you're on podcast: Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Louisville, and Syracuse, they saw going to the Big Ten. And then Clemson, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State, Florida State, Pitt, Georgia Tech to the SEC. I will clarify, this is like talking about the basketball program. We're not talking about football here. That gets a lot more talk there, but we're talking about the basketball program. Which one would they kind of fit into better? Kent, your thoughts on some of the picks here?
I'm glad you clarified that, because I made all my notes based on just the school in general. So I'm just going to stick with that and tell you what I wrote down. I just felt like this was like, to me, it was like mildly inaccurate, but it wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen in the world. I felt like, just looking at it with one look, Syracuse felt right for some reason. Like, I could see them joining. I don't know why. I have no reason behind this, but UNC joining seems like that would be fun and it feels good. And Virginia, for no reason whatsoever. Again, those three teams are just like, looking at them, I'm like, okay, I could see this happening, but there's a lot of other things that I feel like they missed on. Like, I don't know. It just felt like when I'm looking at this graphic right now, it's like, why would Pitt be in the SEC? That doesn't make any sense. We already have Penn State. So like, let's just keep them in this like little Midwest-ish area. So I don't know. I felt like Pitt would be better in the Big Ten, even basketball or football for that matter.
I agree.
Clemson just all around feels like an SEC school to me. So
yeah.
Wrong. Like, well, they had them in the SEC. I thought they put them in the Big Ten when I was reading that.
My search thing said SEC, but maybe
not. Maybe I got that one wrong. That's what I wrote down, but maybe that one was right then. I'm sorry. I think I'm just going through all of them. Duke doesn't belong anywhere. Like, they need to be like an independent. Like, they don't belong in the SEC. They don't belong in the Big Ten. Literally, Duke is the ACC. Like, when I think of the
they
ACC,
just go wherever North Carolina goes to keep the rivalry alive.
Yeah, I think that they would have to probably, but like, I don't know. UNC, I wouldn't mind having them, and I don't want Duke. I don't want to talk about Duke basketball on this show. I just don't want to do it. I can do North Carolina, but I just can't do Duke. And then like, I'm just really, I think I'm just tired of talking about Notre Dame, like, and the potential of them joining the conference. So I'm sick of them and I don't want them to join. So no on Notre Dame either. That's how I feel about what they did. Everything else was pretty good though.
That makes sense. I think Notre Dame, if nothing else, just get Micah Shrewsbury back in the Big Ten. It's like, you can't escape. Cool. You have to come back here. So, Those are my thoughts too, Jeff. Duke and Carolina would be a package deal. I definitely feel like Carolina's kind of out there a whole lot more, and Duke is just kind of like, yep, let us come with you, please. Like, let's keep our rivalry alive. And Philip, Big Ten gets the cream, SEC gets the rest. That's how I felt like it too. Like, even though the Big Ten gets less, like you look at basketball programs here, Louisville, Syracuse, UNC, Virginia, Duke, like these are the much better options of basketball programs historically and what seems like right now in the ACC to what the SEC would be getting. Zod, your thoughts on the teams here?
Yeah, I think this would be fun. I would love a blue blood kind of schedule every year, right? Play Duke, play UNC. UCLA has a ton of history with Notre Dame. They famously snapped our 88-game win streak back in the 70s, Bill Walton. So it'd be fun to kind of renew that rivalry. I agree. I don't like Duke, but I do think they're definitely a package deal with UNC. It'd be fun to bring NC State over too. Just get the whole Tobacco Road thing going. Might as well bring all three of them over. I don't really care for Louisville one way or the other, so swap them and make that triumvirate right there. That would be fine. Virginia feels like it fits from a basketball perspective. Like that's another tough, hard-nosed defensive team, right? You throw them in there.
They fit right in.
Yeah, they fit right in. I think that would be kind of fun. See how they do there. And yeah, I think Syracuse, I don't know. They're there. like
They're there.
I don't have
we need some more orange in the conference, so yeah, bring them on over.
Well, just for color diversity, well, let's keep them. Keep them.
We're trying to become a more diverse conference over here. Give us some orange.
There we go.
Who better than the big orange?
We're trying to be more diverse. Come on in, Duke.
That
doesn't work.
Syracuse and Illinois battling in the orange game every year. So
that'd be fun.
Yeah. Vince, your thoughts? Accurate, inaccurate? You good with Micah Shrewsbury coming back? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking at kind of big picture altogether, I think Notre Dame is a really good fit. One, geography, they're in the Midwest. They're already in the Big Ten Conference for ice hockey. Football, they're path to the college football playoff in a bye, and the playoff is harder because there's rumors that's going to go to the four conference champions with the new Power Four. So I think that would be a good fit. My favorite fit though is Tar Heels, baby. UNC football programs on the rise as well. Basketball programs always great. Really great energy there. I'd love to have them in the conference. And some teams that maybe aren't the best, but selfishly as a Penn State fan, I think would be fun to see are kind of our old rivals like Syracuse, Pitt, West Virginia, teams that were rivals in the past. I think it'd be cool for Penn State to kind of start playing those teams on a daily basis again.
Yeah, we'd have to get West Virginia from the Big 12. I don't know if they're giving that, which never
different.
made sense to me. Why in the world are they in the Big 12? That we talked about regionality, like with all these other schools leaving, and it's like, look at West Virginia. They screwed this up first. They're up there and with all these ACC and Big Ten teams, and they're going down to the Big 12. But
yeah, I think I talked to somebody about this once, so I don't know like the validity of this, but I think the academic like standards had to be a certain point for Big Ten.
Oh, that's right.
Didn't
Yeah.
meet those, so I think they went to the Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12, big dummies. Smart enough to get in the Big Ten.
This doesn't give us like any more fun locations for the Big Ten tournament though. Like if this is actually how it shook out, like how they went to Minnesota this year, if they actually like went to one of these states for the Big Ten tournament, like, oh cool, we're gonna go to
You're not
Kentucky.
trying to do the Big Ten tournament in like the Carrier Dome. You're not into that.
Oh my gosh, I hate that they do
Let's
that.
just everybody go to LA. I think everyone in the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic region just wants to get out of here in the
I'm
winter.
with it. I'm with it. I like that.
I'll take it.
You don't want to go watch a Big Ten tournament in Louisville, there, kid?
No, I mean for me
Louisville's
that would
kinda nice.
be like that would be real nice if that. But like no, I don't want to hang out in Louisville.
I'm not trying to
At
get
all.
Scotty Scheffler in Louisville.
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
like, no, thank you. I'm
Just
a
listen to the
yellow
cops
jacket
and
away
don't
from
drive
being
around
behind
and eat
bars.
car crashes, and you're good.
That's true. Yeah, but none of those would be fun. Like even North Carolina, there I don't know like what kind of I know they have some stadiums over there like like in Charlotte, but like I don't
Madison
know, man.
Square Garden.
Yeah, we've
Good New
we've
York.
done that though.
Yeah, we went to Brooklyn the one year, the Barclays Center.
Oh, that's right. We did go to the Barclays Center. Forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Student Vegas
Boring.
every year.
There we go. Big Ten tournament.
Yes,
Aircraft.
yes.
That's where they did the Pac-12 tournament every year. It was a blast. So just
I
move
want
it
the
there.
aircraft carrier out in the middle of the water though, like in open seas. I don't want it like docked. I want a moving boat. Big Ten tournament. That'd be amazing.
Can you imagine trying to like you're on the ship to watch the games and everything too?
That would be
sounds-
that actually sounds so fun though. Like the Big Ten tournament cruise, like there's only a certain amount of tickets and like there's entertainment. You get to hang out with
Big
like
Ten tournament cruise.
yeah. I like this. This will be really fun. You could like
They
legally
gotta-
gamble. You could actually like pay the players because you're out in open waters. Like there'd be some scandalous stuff going on the Big Ten tournament cruise for sure.
You went a different way. I went with like maybe they're combining with like a Nickelodeon cruise or something, and the winners of the tournament get slimed or something like that. I don't know.
No.
Your mind went to gambling and paying players.
It's
right
got to
away.
be one of those cruise lines with their own island, though. You know, you gotta
yeah.
get out there. They can build a stadium. It'd be kind of fun. I agree with Kent.
Hey,
here.
they got that tournament in the Bahamas.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Let's
And the
do it.
Maui, they have the Maui
Maui.
Invitational. Yeah.
We're doing
There you go.
Illinois
Add the
basketball
Rainbow
fans on a
Warriors.
cruise. Someone gets honey. Yeah. Philip, losers walk the plank. That was what I kept saying about the aircraft carrier. Like, what if somebody like goes flying over the edge in the water? It's like, you lost your guy. Sorry, you know.
sub.
Sub,
Get him a
yeah.
sub.
Both sub underwater. All right. I think that ends it there. Great episode, guys. Appreciate you being here. Zod, you want to tell people where they can find you at Bruin Source?
Yeah. Thanks for having us again. Super fun. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can find us on Spotify, Apple, all the podcast platforms. Just look up Bruin Source. And we are always very active on X/Twitter/ whatever it's called now. At Bruin Source, tweet at us, leave us comments. Yeah, that's where to find us. And obviously the College Huddle. Always a pleasure to be on there.
All right, great stuff. Vince, you want to tell people where they can find Nittany Blues?
Yep. Nittany Blues podcast. We're on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, everywhere podcasts are found, as well as Instagram, Facebook, and X.
No, Philip, we will not be doing the Titanic sub trip. Not that one. There's actually a billionaire in Columbus apparently who's trying to do that and like trying to show that it works. I'm like, why did we not get this guy for Ohio State NIL? What's going on? Why
Yeah,
is he
get
donating to
his
this?
money before he stays down there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Ken, where can people find Casual Big Ten?
Or just get him to put like the NIL collective like in his will right before he goes down. That'd be better.
There we go.
Like all the money would get because
He
he's for sure
signs it
gonna
over
die.
to.
It's basically guaranteed then.
Yeah. I'm on Twitter at Casual Big Ten. You can find me posting stats of quarterbacks from last season and Michigan fans getting really mad at me about it, especially if it's JJ McCarthy versus Drew Aller for no reason. They're just really mad about that. And I'll also be streaming every once in a while. I did a stream today playing Madden. I'm trying to get ready for NCAA football 25. By the way, found out last week, thanks to Sonny and Russ, friends of the program, I have to get a new system. I cannot play on the Xbox One S. I have to get an Xbox S, which like seems backwards, but I do. So thanks to those guys for DMing me. I have to get a brand new system now. And I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to get here before the game comes out in a couple months. But I'm going to be ready. I've won my last 3 games on the stream. I'm killing it right now, man. I'm ready. You guys do not want to play me.
Are they going to do a college basketball 25?
Oh, I hope so.
That'd be awesome.
They need to.
For some reason, I haven't liked basketball games as much as the football ones, though. They're just not as fun.
Well, and 2K died for me when they went to the virtual currency as much as they did. Like it was fine when they first brought it out, and then it was just like everything in the game depended on that. So I hope NCAA 25 doesn't have any which they had a bunch of people talk about it today. I don't think anybody talked about it having virtual currency in it.
I think it's still going to have like. Are you talking about like you have to pay to play basically type stuff?
Yeah, like you pay for skins or whatever, like that kind of stuff. Like,
They're definitely going to have that, but it's not going to be like that's the only thing you can do. I think it's only on certain like if you're building up your team or whatever. I'm not really sure. It was too much reading, man. Like I said, I like playing video games. I'm not trying to read an article about it.
not a nerd. I'm going to the Big Ten. You're going to the Big 12.
That's right, dude. I didn't come here to play school.
I like that quote. Jeff says, good show, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to Vince, Zod, Kent for being here tonight. We will, next week, it will be Kent all on his own not all on his own. He'll have somebody else with him, I'm sure, whoever he chooses there. But I will not be here next week, so we will leave the Big Ten huddle in the hands of Kent. So we'll
My
see
wife
if we can
said she
trust him or
wanted to
not.
come on.
Oh, okay. All
Right before I walked in here, I was like, I'm hosting by myself next week. And she was like, can I come on? And I was like, sure.
Get
It
her
would
hot
do.
takes
I think it
on
would actually
power
do
rankings
numbers.
and-
My wife is beautiful, so I think we'd get some viewers on here.
They're gonna come back the week after and be like, "Oh, what's this JR guy doing? Bring the girl back! What in the world?"
For sure. Would that be the first girl on the program? I should really have her on. That'd be
We
hilarious.
had Michelle on from
I know who you're
Twitter.
talking
I
about.
think, Michigan fan Michelle.
Yeah.
We had her on. So,
Yep.
that was like really, really early. So it's been a while since we've had a girl on. But all right, thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a good one.